"Step away from the car right now," the officer shouted, slamming his baton into the SUV's window. Glass rained down across the driveway as the man in the blue tracksuit froze, his mouth half open in disbelief. Neighbors peeked from their curtains, watching the scene unfold like a nightmare in broad daylight. The officer's face was red with fury. To him, this was a criminal's vehicle parked in front of a luxury home. The man standing silently in the driveway looked suspicious, too calm, too silent, too still. And in the officer's mind, silence was guilt. With a roar, he bashed the glass again. The window gave way, shards scattering across the leather seats. But as the officer leaned inside, his expression shifted instantly. His jaw locked, his eyes darted across what he had just uncovered. And then, his knees buckled. Inside the SUV sat a folded American flag, neatly placed on the passenger seat, resting beside a framed photo of a young soldier in uniform. Next to it, a handwritten letter in a child's shaky handwriting. "Dear Gaddy, I miss you every day. Mommy says you're watching me from heaven." The driveway went dead silent. The officer's baton slipped from his hand, clattering against the pavement. His rage had collapsed into something heavier: shame. He turned and for the first time truly looked at the man that he had just accused. That man was Robert Williams, a widower, a father, and the proud parent of the fallen soldier in that photograph. Robert had stood motionless during the chaos, not because he was guilty, but because he had grown used to being misjudged. He had worked 30 years as an engineer, saving every dollar to buy that home. But in his own neighborhood, people still whispered when he passed. They assumed his success was suspicious. And now a police officer had smashed the window of his car because of the same poisonous assumption. But Robert wasn't angry. He was broken. The SUV wasn't just a vehicle. It was his son's car, the last thing his boy had bought before deploying overseas. He had kept it exactly as his son left it, untouched, as a living memory. And now shattered glass covered the seat where his son once sat. The officer swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "Sir, I thought—" His words stumbled into the cold air. "I didn't know." Robert's eyes burned with pain, but he didn't shout. He didn't lash out. Instead, he whispered, "You never asked. You never even looked at me before you judged me." In that moment, the officer's chest tightened with guilt. Memories flashed of every split-second judgment he had made in his career, every assumption drawn before truth. But this cut deeper, because what lay inside that car wasn't just glass and leather. It was love, sacrifice, and grief. The neighbors who had been watching now stepped out quietly, realizing what they had just witnessed. No longer was Robert the suspicious man with a nice car. He was a father still mourning his son, a man who carried a weight they couldn't even imagine. The officer bent down, gathering pieces of shattered glass with shaking hands. "I'll pay for it. I'll fix this. I'm so sorry." His voice cracked, his authority stripped away. But Robert simply placed a hand on the officer's shoulder and said, "You can't fix what's already broken, but you can learn not to break it again." The story spread across the neighborhood, then across the city. People came by to shake Robert's hand, some even leaving flowers at his doorstep for the soldier he lost. The officer himself returned weeks later, not in uniform, but in plain clothes, holding a new framed glass for the photograph that had been shattered. He asked for forgiveness, not as a cop, but as a man. Robert accepted, not because he had to, but because his son had once written in his letter, "Daddy, be strong, show kindness, even when the world isn't kind." And so the driveway where judgment had once shattered a window became the place where truth shattered prejudice. So never judge what you don't understand. Behind every face is a story you cannot see. Behind every silence is a battle you don't know. Robert stood tall once again, not as a victim of suspicion, but as a father whose son's memory taught an entire community a lesson in humanity. And as the officer saluted him, tears in his eyes, the neighbors applauded. Respect was finally given where it had always been due. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and drop a karma in the comments below.